And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, I'm very excited. We have a special guest with us. He's actually a friend of mine, somebody that we hosted, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago in Seattle, when he came out with his book, The Way of the Leopard Warrior. And we had the pleasure of actually hosting him at the Ananda community where he stayed with my brother. So I got to have some behind the scenes conversations with him. And at that time, my wife and I had just had our baby few months before that. So I was carrying around the baby and chatting with John. It was really, really wonderful to spend that time with him and to have him in the bookstore practicing, which was for the first time for us, having a traditional African shaman in the store, doing sessions with people. I remember when I first heard of him, our event coordinator at the time, Aditi, she found him online and saw this dancing video of him leading these stiff Londoners and he had the jingling bells on his legs, and he was singing hallelujah, waking up the energy. And you could see it was infectious. It was that movement of the body is just what people needed to open up into this higher awareness. So pleased to have him with us. Without further ado, John Lockley is here with us. Welcome, John.
Hey, Bhima, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So now it's 2 or 3 years later. I wanted to just, before we get into what you've been doing since then, I did want to ask if you could start this hour off with a little bit of setting the intention for our time together and to be of service to all those who are watching live and also who watch this replay. Is there something you'd like to offer?
Yes, Sangoma means people of the song, and we connect to spirit through chanting. So I'd like to chant, do an Ngoma, and the Ngoma I'd like to sing, or the chant, is Umoya. Umoya means spirit, it means soul. So the book Leopard Warrior is all about helping people to connect to their spirit, to their soul, and then to connect to humanity, Ubuntu. So here we go.
Brilliant.
So wherever you are, stand up straight, close your eyes, and drop into your heartbeat. Abazali bamo, 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 abazali mamo, abazali mam, abazali mamo, yo, abazali mamo, yo, oh moya wamo. Sirikamagu tikro kamagu kamata vunlela mnyange vunlela tikro wama nceda bantu kuhamba phambile nceda bantu kuyiva umoya kuhamba phambile ukumamela ubuntu bunzulu sirikamagu. So the prayer is for people to connect to the spirit and to listen to the great spirit and move forwards and upwards as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us. So for those of you just tuning in here, I'm here with John Lockley, who's a dear friend of ours and one of the few fully initiated shamans in the tradition, white shamans in modern history. in this particular tribe. John, can you tell us a little bit about, how do I pronounce it? Is it Xhosa?
Xhosa, the Xhosa,
like
Xhosa tradition.
Is that with like a clicking sound?
Yeah, it's a clicking language. It's Nelson Mandela's language. So you click. Xhosa people. Xhosa people, yeah. Or you could just say Xhosa.
Oh, that's tough.
But yeah,
okay. It's like doing two different things at once. I wanted to just check in with you since you did the book. You were just telling me a few stories about what you've been up to since then. I know you've had a child. You're in Canada now, yes. But you had also some adventures too in the savannah. I think it was in the last few years before the pandemic. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I spent a lot of my time in South Africa, and for those of you who haven't read the book, I don't want to give a spoiler. So get the book and read it. When you finish the book, you'll see there's an engagement or something that happens with me with a leopard. And you have to read the book to see that, and it's quite a strong experience. And anyway, I had this experience with a leopard in real life when I was 16 years old, and that's what engaged or got me hooked in terms of African spirituality, or the spirituality of the African savannah. And so then I wrote the book, and then a number of magical things happened to me after writing the book in terms of people contacting me about leopards. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who's Craig Foster, who's subsequently done an incredible documentary on the octopus. And you'll see it on Netflix. And I was speaking to Craig about nature and about bringing people into the African bushveld. And he mentioned that I should work with a well-known tracker in Botswana who was educated by the Bushman people. So he mentioned him to me, and his name's Alwyn. And then we let it go. And then Alwyn contacted me a number of months later. We had a few interactions on WhatsApp. And then there was this very urgent interaction where he was in the bushveld in Botswana, and he said he needed to speak to me urgently. And at that stage, I was on a book tour in Montreal, and I answered the call straight away. And he said to me, something remarkable has just happened to me, John, and I have to share it with you. And he said he was tracking a wild leopard into the bushveld. And it was a particular leopard that he'd been working with for a number of years. And he managed to find the leopard and just sit down, and he just sat down and he just watched her. And that's the way he used to communicate with her. And he said, as he sat down and started speaking to her, because he was speaking to her by a mental telepathy, they had a few words, and he mentioned me to her. And the next thing, she sparked up and she said that he needed to invite me to Botswana, and invite me as soon as possible, because she wanted to download information to me about the African bushveld. Now, if you know Alwyn as a Bushman tracker in Botswana, he is the most unhippie of anyone you'll meet. He doesn't use this kind of language, but he is a bona fide animal communication person. And so when she said this to him, as soon as he got back to where he could communicate with me, he let me know. He said, the name of the leopard is Matsebe. And he's been tracking and working with her for a number of years. And he said the instruction from her was very, very clear, that he had to communicate with me and get me to Botswana as soon as possible, because she wanted to communicate something from the bushveld. She wanted to download information for me or to me. So he said to me, what's the quickest? How can you get here? And I told him, I said, well, the quickest I can get there is February, because at the moment I'm on tour. I'm in Montreal, Canada, and I've got other places to go. He says, okay, I'll book that. And he said, come as soon as you can. And he says, you can stay as long as you like. You can stay at my place as long as you get here, because this leopard is calling you. Wow. So that's what I did. I flew in a little plane into Maun Airport. He picked me up. And as soon as he picked me up, there was another friend of his who just happened to be there, and they were showing leopard pictures on their phones and talking about the leopard. And so it was a few days of being in Maun, and then they took me into the bushveld, and we searched for Matsebe, and I didn't find Matsebe, but as the sun was setting, I found her daughter. I found her daughter as the sun was setting, and it was very miraculous, and it was very special. And this young daughter is actually now the leader of that particular group of leopards. Mm. And then a few months later, actually, let me go back a bit. So after that encounter, I went back and I spoke to Alwyn, and we spoke together, and I told him my vision of bringing people from the Western world into Africa to teach them indigenous technology. And I said, I want to call it Dreams and Tracking in the Kalahari. And I said, is he interested to do this with me? And he says, yes. Like straight away, there was no argument. He's like, yes, let's do it. So we agreed to do our first tour or retreats in the Kalahari last year. And then I left Botswana. And then a couple of months later, I got a very tearful message from him to say that Matsebe died, this beloved leopard that died. And he had a very, very strong connection to her. But anyway, I'll fast forward to last year. We ran 3 back-to-back retreats in one of the most rural and isolated places in the world, in the Kalahari Desert. And as we started pitching our tent and organizing the space for the overseas guests, I said to Alwyn, have you had any dreams about Matsebe? And he says, no, I haven't. And I said, here's some African herb. And I gave it to him. I said, can you light that? And I taught him how to pray. And I said, let's see where she is, because she must be guiding us right now. He says, okay. He took me seriously. He said, okay. So he went to sleep. I went to sleep. The next morning I woke up. We went and had coffee together. We sat down. And the first thing he said to me, I saw Matsebe in the dream last night. She came to me. I said, really? I said, I was expecting that. He said, yeah, she came to me. And she told me where to go tracking. And in the dream, she was moving with 2 other younger leopards. And I saw their tracks in the sand. And it was very clear she was with them. And she was guiding them. She was teaching them. And he said, I know where this place is. And he said, it's far over there. He said, as soon as we've had breakfast, John, we're going to go and you're going to track. And I'm going to go to that place. So I said, okay. So we had finished our breakfast. We jumped into the jeeps and we drove off into the bushveld, into the Kalahari Desert. We went to that one place that he dreamt about. And he was driving slowly, looking at the tracks in the ground, driving, looking at the tracks. And then he stopped. And all he did was point on the ground. And we got out. And he just went. And we pointed in the ground. We got out. And he just said to me, that's the one track. The one young leopard, and this is a young leopard. And he said, and there's the other one. He managed to track the 2 leopards that he saw in the dream. Wow. And the third one, the third leopard, was Matsebe in the spirit world guiding us.
Wow. Okay, so what an introduction to the power of these practices, right? I mean, in your book, you call it Ubuntu 101, and there is some techniques that you cover, and I'm sure you'll talk about them next weekend too. But dreaming is an important part of that. For you, your recognition of being a Sangoma came from a dream, right?
Yes. Well, my teacher, Mam Gwevu, she had a dream from the Great Spirit the night before I came for a divination at her house, and in the dream, she said the Great Spirit came to her and said to her that she must prepare herself to train and initiate someone from another culture to become a senior Sangoma like her. And then the next day, I came through her gate and she said I was the one she was called to train. And then I was training with her for a couple of months, and then she received another dream. And in this dream, she received it from her ancestors. And she said that they told her to call me Ucingolendaba, which means the messenger, the bridge, the one who communicates between different cultures. And we had a ceremony with a few Sangomas came to initiate me with that name. And they said it was a very auspicious name. And it said that the ancestors have a big job for me to travel and spread these teachings. And at that stage, I was only 25 or 26. I'd done a bit of traveling because my mother's from Ireland and my father's from Zimbabwe. So I had done some traveling, but since then, I've traveled the world. So it was really, really prophetic, very, very strongly prophetic. Yes.
So with Matsube, was that the name of the leopard?
Matsebe.
Matsebe.
Yeah.
I mean, she made a great effort to bring you to the Kalahari and communicating with, like what you said, he wasn't a hippie tracker. He was, straight laced, I guess, and to also to bring people, as you felt, to bring Westerners out into the bush. Is that somehow connected with this recognition of your initiated name of bringing bridging the two cultures? Is that part of it?
Yes. I mean, Ndaba means the bridge. It also means the messenger between the spirit world and the world of people, but also messenger between people and a messenger between the world of people and the world of the animal kingdom.
Well, what benefit do you? I mean, I can get a sense of the benefit of it personally, but for Westerners, at large, what would be the benefit of them coming to Africa? What do you think is so special about being there?
Well, Africa, in particular Southern Africa, is the birthplace of man. It's the birthplace of mankind. The earliest remnants of the human race have been found in Southern Africa, and recently, I saw an article recently that I think human remains of over 2 million years ago were found in the Kalahari Desert, and that was recent. That was about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So at the moment, we are in dire straits on the world in terms of the way mankind is treating the natural environment. So what needs to happen is for people, in particular modern people, to tune in and wise up and rewild and become a little bit more intuitive to the natural world. Because if we don't, we're going to really destroy this planet. And if we don't destroy the planet, we're going to keep destroying a number of species, a number of animals, and make this space practically inhospitable for the living. And so we have a duty as human beings to become a little bit more intuitive and a little bit less selfish, and to actually connect with the natural world. But it's also about joy, because as we connect with the natural world, as we connect to the birds and as the trees and the wilderness, then we become happier people. So the teachings of Ubuntu really are about humanity, but the way we connect with our humanity is connecting with our ancestors, our bones, our dreams, and connecting with our inner wilderness. And as we do that, then we are also connecting to the outer wilderness, the world of nature, the world of the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom.
I mean, you mentioned them finding human remains 2 million years old. There's something to be learned, definitely, from connecting to our past. It's when we talked a few days ago. I was kind of naively saying, "Wow, John, you're talking about dream work, and you're talking about connecting with the ancestors, and you're talking about meditation." And so often people will explore one of those techniques or practices independent of another. And you said, well, Bhima, that's just what traditional shamanism is. It is all of those. I mean, that's the name of the game. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's really helpful to hear about. And so in your book, you talk about the ancestral prayer, and say that that's something that you do, or that you can do every day. Is that something? Does that facilitate a similar type of purpose as it would be to connect? Going. I mean, not everybody can get up and go to Africa, especially these days. But is there something inherent in that practice of honoring and connecting the ancestors that helps us to cultivate Ubuntu?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Africa is part of the world. So it doesn't mean you can access the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of humanity. You can access anywhere. anywhere. I mean, I was in Japan, and I had these incredible experiences in Japan, and then I saw that they have this very ancient Shinto tradition, which is all about ancestors, and it's all about nature spirits. So what I'm talking about is where a human being, doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter if you're in New York City, London, Paris, Tokyo, Berlin, doesn't matter where you are, but the most important thing is your intention. Do you want to connect to the wilderness? Do you want to connect to nature? Or do you want to be a consumer and a hungry ghost and eat everything around you? And most people, after a while, after a bit of contemplation, they're going to think, well, no, because if you keep eating and taking from everything, there's going to be nothing left. So the question in terms of a spiritual journey for anyone is, what can I do to serve this world and serve this planet? And if that prayer is strong, if that intention is strong, then synchronicity through dreams, through your life, through people you meet, will lead you in such a direction where you can be of service. And I've heard magical stories being told wherever I've been of people who have that burning desire to actually do something of gratitude, do something of love, do something of where they just want to help this world. And from people working with animals to people working with children. And then when they start doing that, then they start engaging with their humanity, and they receive dreams and epiphanies and mystical experiences. And it's the same in the yoga path. I mean, I stayed with you. I stayed with you, your brother Bhima, and I know that you guys are part of the Ananda community, which is a very old yogic community. And the spirit of yoga is about namaste. The God in me bows down to the God in you. How can we help each other? How can we serve one another and this world? That's the essence of yoga. So I think wherever I go, I encounter people with that particular spirit, like I encountered you and your brother and the people in Seattle in East West Bookstore with the Nanda community, because that spirit of Ubuntu is not just an African concept. It's a human concept where people put their own jealousies and greeds and their own selfish interests aside, and think about the person next to them, or it could be an animal that they fall in love with.
Sounds like Ubuntu could almost be like the same part of the same meaning as namaste. Is that right?
No, I wouldn't say that, because
No?
namaste means like the God in me bows down to the God in you. Ubuntu literally means it means humanity. It means I am what I am because of who we all are as a human race. So what it says also is that if I don't make an effort to uplift the human race, then the quality of Ubuntu, the quality of humanity is going to go down. So it's like one drop into this glass of healing intention can turn this glass of water into something very healing. But one drop of negativity, of anger and jealousy and all that is going to make this water almost distasteful. So the quality of a spiritual person nowadays is to help this world. So Ubuntu means I'm holding the hands of my brothers and sisters in this world, and whatever community I'm in, what can we do to help one another in the spirit of cooperation? So the essence of Ubuntu is actually cooperation and compassion. And part of that is passionately listening and feeling one another, and then turning that passion to the world and helping the world, because passion leads to compassion. So as we're listening to one another and we're listening to our own spirits and dreams, then we are able to help the world outside.
You talked about the intention, the intention to serve, or the intention to be of service, and to be part of that positive drop. I think everybody who's probably with us right now And hello, everybody that's with us right now. If you want to, feel free to type into the comments if you have a question for John. We will have some time for Q&A. So don't feel like it's a disturbance to type, because we'll get to it later. Just put it in there as you think of it. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you, John, is I think all of us here at East West, we have that intention to serve. We have that intention that we want to be part of the change that we wish to see in the world. But there are so many distractions. I mean, I even know for myself, I had the misfortune of downloading the Scrabble app on my phone, and it is so easy. It's so easy to distract yourself with little things like that. And you talked about compassion leading to compassion. We all want to be more compassionate. We all want to be connected to Mother Earth, be part of the solution. How do we develop that passion? I mean, how do you invigorate yourself? And what was it in your life that set you so squarely on this path of being of service to others?
Okay, there's one word: meditation. But I did Zen meditation, and that's how I got my epiphany. That's how I received my Sangoma calling, and then all the dreams. So I had this very powerful experience after a Zen retreat. But the reason why I meditated so strongly is because I experienced death. As a medic in the South African Army, I saw a few of my patients die, and one of them died over a period of 6 weeks. And every day his mother would come to me and say, "Is he going to live or die?" And I said he's going to live, but I could see he was dying. And I was only 18 years old, and I was put into a very extreme state of existential angst. And nothing was helping me, nothing. And as I left his room for the last time, I prayed and I said, "Please, God, show me a path where I can understand suffering, because what I'm seeing here and in the hospital, and also larger South Africa in apartheid, civil war," I said, "I'm only 18 years old and everything I'm seeing around me is suffering." And I prayed really, really strongly. And then 2 weeks later, a friend of mine came to me and he said, "I'm working with a lady she's a Zen nun." And I said, "What is Zen?" And he said, "Zen is part of Buddhism, and it's a practice of meditation to help you find the root of suffering." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, it'll help you find the root of suffering." So I was like, "Okay, I'll join you." So then I joined him, and her Zen master was the well-known Zen master Deshimaru. So she started teaching us. So that's how it happened for me. So I think when you meditate, it's important when you meditate to really concentrate and focus, and because you can meditate your whole life and struggle to get epiphanies, but it's about the right mental attitude. So if you only meditate for 5 minutes, but you really concentrate and you try really hard, then you're going to make some kind of breakthrough. So my Zen masters in South Korea would say, when you meditate like a cat staring at a mouse trap, ready to pounce. He says that level of concentration is needed. So this is what I'm seeing, even with myself. We all, because of social media and these wonderful iPhones, we all suffering from attention deficit. So we just need to, when we're meditating or doing something we love, we need to turn our phones off and really concentrate and develop our capacity of concentration. But behind the concentration is that intention again. So how important is it for you to wake up? How important is it for you to connect with your dreams and with your spirituality? This is the question.
Yeah. What a great answer. Thank you, John. I love that image of the cat. It totally is, one of the things that our teacher Yogananda would say was, before he would talk to anybody, he would say, "How feels everybody?" And then he would expect them to say, "Awake and ready." And it seems like we really do need to wake up from this. It could take it can take up so much of your time. And what a great reminder. And some of these practices I found were really, really special, like the heartbeat meditation. Can you talk a little bit about what the power is of connecting? I mean, I know the classic one is watching your breath, but what is it that's special about following the heartbeat?
Well, the heartbeat is the essence of life, is the life force going into each person. So, I mean, that's what it's really about. If you want to connect to the world of the animal world, like the birds and the bees, you want to look and you want to connect with that life force inside of them. So before you do that, before you want to even learn to become a tracker, an animal tracker, you have to track your own spirit. You have to track the life force inside of you. And what better way is it than the breath and the heartbeat? And but I had this experience during my early years when I started this path of getting a lot of heart problems, actually. And I had these incredible heart palpitations, and I got very sick. And I went to the doctor, and I was admitted into hospital, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me, but I had incredible heart palpitations. So I'd already started with Zen meditation that time. So I thought to myself, okay, well, what I'm going to do is, as soon as I get these heart palpitations, I'm just going to just sit on my meditation cushion and just feel it and just concentrate and just breathe all the way into it. So this is what I did. And I found that the heart palpitations actually eased up, and I started to feel better. And then I started getting these incredible dreams, these prophetic dreams at night. And every day at a certain time, I would get this incredible heart palpitation where my whole body was just pulsing with this. It felt like my heartbeat was jumping out of my chest. So then I would just see it as a call, that my spirit is calling me and my body is calling me. So I would just sit down on my meditation cushion, take a breath in, and then just listen and feel, and then it would calm down. So this happened over about 3 weeks. And this was really the basis of my heartbeat meditation practice. What happened to me is actually what opened the door more to my dream world and my spiritual practice. And it's a very simple practice, but it just requires intention, passion, and concentration. That's it. That's it. It's very simple. So when you're feeling your heartbeat, you want to feel like a child. One of the things that a child loves is feeling the heartbeat of the mother. So that's why I recommend my students and friends just to get a large meditation blanket, wrap yourself in the blanket, and feel like you're being held by the Great Mother. Feel held and comforted. And then you can put your hand on your chest or your heart or even your pulse points. And then just breathe in and breathe out. In fact, let's do it now.
Yeah.
Only take 2 minutes. So put your hand on your heart or on your pulse points or your fingers together, where is the heart meridian. And I'm doing it like this with my fingers together, and I'm resting my hands on my lap and then sitting up straight and taking a nice deep breath in and let go into the pulse inside of you. Let go into that heartbeat. Breathe the breath of life into your heart. And if you want to breathe out 3 times to release any tension or exhaustion from the day, then do that. And when you're breathing in healing vitality, and breathing out any kind of exhaustion from the day, breathing it out. And then one more time, a third time, take a nice deep breath in and breathing out any exhaustion, any heaviness, just breathe it out. And let go into that heart pulse, let go into that rhythm of the heartbeat. and almost feel like you're on the water at sea, and you're on this little dinghy or rubber duck or whatever you want to call it, and your only job is to listen to that pulse of the heartbeat, and that is what's going to help navigate you to safety. So the whole job of the practice is just to surrender and let go into your heartbeat, and to keep breathing in such a way that you're energizing your heart. And this is going to do wonders for your physical body, and it'll do wonders for your spiritual body. And then you will start receiving some kind of guidance. But beware. Don't do this practice because you want something. Do this practice almost as an offering of yourself to the world. Just offer yourself to the world. Offer your breath and your heartbeat to the ground beneath you. And don't have any expectations of what you're going to get from it. Do it out of love, out of devotion to life all around you. And then let me know what happens.
I love that disclaimer. Don't do it for you. That's it. That's the whole message. So, folks, if you want to ask John a question, you can do so now. It also be a good time, John, for us to talk a little bit about next weekend, and about the workshop. What can we expect to learn from the workshop on next Saturday?
I'm going to be teaching people about Ubuntu, about that circle of humanity. And so the circle of humanity starts with our own connection to our spirit. So I'm going to teach people the heartbeat meditation, but in particular, how to connect to your own spirit. So our relationship to the animal kingdom and to the spirit world starts with ourselves, starts with our relationship with ourselves. So we first have to connect to our own spirit. Before you connect to the spirit of the lion or the spirit of the chipmunk or the squirrel, you have to connect to your own spirit. And then after that, I'll teach people how to connect to their ancestors, their bone people. And as we do it, it's almost this energy like this that we move outwards. So first yourself and your own heartbeat, then your ancestors, and then we expand outwards to the spirit of nature. And so this would be the start of tracking animals and also tracking dreams. This is the start. You would say Ubuntu 101 is the start of a traditional shamanic training.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talked a little bit about is the difference between traditional shamanism and what could be called neo-shamanism, or practices that are kind of more eclectic. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, as largely all of us are probably considered Westerners, one of the things that we just started hearing about maybe like 4 or 5 years ago is this term cultural appropriation. So how can we as Westerners benefit, or work with these practices that are from an indigenous culture in a respectful way, and then also how do we recognize when something is traditional indigenous shamanism?
It's very simple. If you're working with someone who they're promoted as a shaman, then the first thing is to ask, what tradition are you part of? What culture are you part of? Who are your elders? Who trained you? And that's a very simple question, And the next thing, in terms of cultural appropriation, it's very important permission. Permission is really everything, Cultural appropriation it's been it's a big word now, but for me it speaks about permission. Mm-hmm. So does someone, whoever they are, whatever the color of their skin is, does someone have permission to wear those beads, call themselves a doctor or whatever they call themselves? Do they have the permission to do that? Mm. So in South Africa, it's very clear in many ways. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. You could be a Xhosa, Zulu person and have beautiful black skin. But if you are wearing Sangoma beads, like what I'm wearing, and you are not a Sangoma, that's cultural appropriation. It's not just cultural appropriation. It's actually unethical on many different levels, especially spiritually. It's very, very unethical.
Right.
So it speaks about permission, and it's not complicated. So if someone is bringing particular teachings, you could ask that teacher, do you have permission to bring these teachings, or do you, is it safe for me to do this X, Y, and Z, I mean, before I brought these particular teachings to the West, I had many meetings with my elders. And I remember speaking to my elders and saying, that I didn't want to go overseas. I said to them that I didn't want to go, but my dreams were guiding me to go overseas, And I remember speaking to my Xhosa elder, my teacher's husband, and he's a very renowned and very wise traditional elder. And I said to him, Xhosa, Tatam, andifuni kuhamba phesheya, kodwa izinyanya zibizimna daphupa amanyange. I said, Father, I don't want to go overseas, but the ancestors are calling me, the spirits are calling me to go overseas to teach people how to connect to their ancestors. And he looked at me, we were walking along the road, and he stopped. He looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Cingo Ndaba, wena Nkulu, uyamamela izinyanya uyahamba phesheya, wena Nkulu. He said, John, you are a senior Sangoma. You listen to your dreams and you go overseas. He says, don't worry about us. You'll have us in our prayers. You'll be in our prayers. You'll always be part of this community. And when you come back, we'll just carry on like you never left. We'll never forget you. But you are a senior Sangoma and you need to listen to your dreams. Hamba peshe, go overseas. Because for people not to be connected to their ancestors is a situation where people become speechless in the local community. No one knows what to say to someone if they don't know their ancestors and they're not connected to their ancestors, because that is almost like a crisis with Ubuntu, with humanity. If someone doesn't know their ancestors, it's a crisis. So when I went home a number of times and I said, people are not dreaming about their ancestors, they didn't know what to say. They said, you must teach them how to dream and connect to their ancestors. So I'm teaching basic traditional healing techniques that most people in the village or area that I'm from will know, and they're not Sangomas. So it's not necessarily secret Sangoma knowledge that I'm teaching. It's not.
Right.
It's knowledge that everyone should know in an indigenous community, and the fact that modern Westerners don't means that we in Southern Africa are under threat. Because if the modern Western person is not connected to their humanity, it's going to infect all of us.
Right. Ubuntu.
And that's what Nelson Mandela did. He showed with his own actions not to hate thy enemy, but to love, listen, and respect your opponent. And through doing that, the whole world fell in love with him. And he is Xhosa. He was Xhosa, and he's an elder in the Xhosa tradition. And Nelson Mandela is a Leopard Warrior. And he is my mentor. Or he was my mentor.
Yeah. He bridged the cultures too.
Yeah.
Big way.
Yeah.
On a big stage. Yeah.
So these teachings are not complicated. Cultural appropriation is not complicated. Just ask yourself one question. Do I have permission to bring this sacred knowledge somewhere, to wear these talismans or whatever the costume is, or even to call myself a shaman? Do I have permission from a culture to do that? And if I don't, then call yourself an intuitive healer. Call yourself a psychic healer.
For sure. So we don't have a ton of time left, and folks, for those of you, I think you should be able, wherever you're viewing this from, you should be able to see the links to John's website and to the workshop that we're doing next weekend, and also to purchase his books, his book and his teaching CD recording. So you can look at that in the description. I've also put it in the chats here. Oh, we have a question from Deborah. Beautiful. And then if we have time, I did have a follow-up question, John, about connecting to the ancestors. But let's give Deborah. This is from Deborah Hunt. She writes, "I can never remember my dreams. Should I keep meditation? Should I keep meditating?" I'm not quite sure.
Yes, of course. Keep meditating. And then just look around, look at how you go to sleep, and look at how you wake up. So often I'll wake up with a dream. So I'm very careful about turning my phone on first thing in the morning, or even turning the radio on or something like that. So you need to be very careful how you wake up, because if you wake up too quickly, then it's going to be hard for you to remember your dreams. So it becomes a practice. There's dreaming, and dream recall is a habit. And if you have a very strong intention to remember your dreams, then just be very gentle on yourself that when you're waking up, and also have like a dream journal or something by the side of your bed, and write something down. It could be emotions, images, anything from the night before. And take it easy. Don't stress if you're not remembering your dreams. Just do a prayer, take it easy, meditate. Don't have high expectations. Develop a prayer practice, whether it's yogic or Buddhist, but don't put a lot of pressure into, I must remember a dream. I must remember a dream. I must remember a dream. Because if you do that, geez, you're putting pressure on yourself. So be careful about that.
Brilliant. Mary writes, "Thank you for listening and for teaching."
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
John, quick question. When you said to the elders that Westerners don't have a connection to their ancestors, why is? And you did say that it helps to connect, with their humanity, with their Ubuntu. But did you have an experience of connecting to your ancestors on both sides of on your parents' side, and what is the benefit of doing that? I know, personally speaking, I've got a whole list of ancestors, and I don't know how great of people they all were. A lot of them were, Southern Americans and in slavery time and things like that. So what is the benefit of connecting to these souls?
It's not about looking for perfection. Okay. When we look at our ancestors, a lot of them, there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of suffering, and we don't have the right to judge and blame our ancestors. We don't. What we can do, if we become a little bit more enlightened and we become, more middle class, so we're not struggling with poverty, we can light a stick of incense for our ancestors and send a prayer of love to them wherever they are, because without them, we wouldn't be here. So the practice of, let's call it ancestral veneration, it's not really worshiping ancestors. It's more like veneration. It's more like just honoring and just paying a sense of respect. It's just a very simple practice. It's not necessarily about knowing the names and dates of your ancestors going back 1,000 years. Although in a lot of African traditions, they will know these names. But the most important thing is just to feel that energetic energy going into your veins, going back in history, going back in time, because we have to look at our lives like trees. If you want to be a strong tree, you have to connect with your roots. And if you look at the baobab tree in South Africa, it's one of the oldest trees in the world, as is the oak and other trees. And they have a very highly refined root system that goes deep into the earth. So that is a symbol of ancestral veneration. if we want to be strong as human beings into the next generation, into the future, we have to show love and compassion to our foreparents. And if they've done horrendous deeds, then we need to make some kind of reconciliation or restitution on behalf of them. But to suddenly wipe them out and say, oh, they're slave trading, rubbish, alcoholics. I mean, maybe some of them were, but the essence of them, before they became slave trading alcoholics, the essence of them was Kanya, was Buddha nature. Kanya means shining. So if people struggle with their ancestors, I want you to imagine your ancestors as 6-month-old children before the behavior and evil of the world infected them. I'm assuming you're talking about ancestors you have a problem with. And then give thanks for that raw DNA that's been passed on to you. And in so doing, you're going to strengthen that ancestral line inside of you, not necessarily the behavior of your ancestors, but just that honoring of them. And as we do that, then that helps to breed compassion, but it also helps to breed that sense of humility, because humility is the essence of spiritual practice. We are not here because of ourselves. We are here because a whole line of people sacrificed their lives for us.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful to understand, because it's something that, I think some people could think it's a little abstract, although I know I have heard a lot of folks who've had dreams, where their ancestors have come to them, and then they know exactly why it's important, to connect. But we have something here from Mary. She writes, you can see here, I once had a very difficult time remembering my dreams and mentioned it to my acupuncturist. He spoke to me about an organ being out of balance. She's asking, how do African herbs work to help dreaming? And then that's a great segue too, to talk about some of the one-on-one sessions you're doing on Sunday.
Yeah, well, African herbs, I'm very careful about talking about African herbs. And the reason is because people come from all around the world.
Yeah.
And what I'd rather speak about is local herbs, wherever you are, because, I've traveled widely, and I've seen the most incredible plants in Japan. I've seen the most incredible plants in England and in Ireland. So I'd rather say, what are the local plants to help you with dreams? Because straight away we start putting one culture and group of people up on the pedestal. And that's not really what I want to do. I mean, I've had incredible healing from harvesting plants on the side of the road in England, in Oxfordshire. And that plant was called mugwort. I've done incredible healings with mugwort, harvested from the side of the footpath in Oxfordshire. And I've also had other plants I've worked with. So the question should be, what are the local plants in your area that have healing properties that you can work with? And one of the ways you do that is you listen to your dreams, and you listen to maybe local herbalists or naturalists that you can speak to. But don't just go and pick a plant and drink it and eat it. Really be careful and do your homework and do your research.
What a practical answer.
Yeah.
It's always refreshing. It's refreshing. It's not like go to eBay and type in African herbs. No. The 21st century impulse. This is from Norma. She writes, after my mother died, she appeared in my dreams many times. And even now she occasionally pops in to say hi. It's beautiful.
Okay. Well, next time your mother does that, please tell her I say hi. And I think she's doing a great job communicating with you. So thank you.
Totally. All right. Well, this is beautiful. Well, John, thank you so much for taking this time with us. It's getting close to the hour here. I do want to mention again for everybody, you should be able to find all the links you need to explore further in the description, wherever you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. Check out John's book and his teaching session. It's also in the link. You can order it through bookshop.org, which we have linked there. And you can find out the the exclusive story of John meeting the leopard in the book. You have to read the book. And then do check out the workshop on Saturday. As John mentioned, he's going to be sharing some of these Ubuntu 101 practices, the heartbeat meditation, ancestral prayer, working with your dreams, connecting with your ancestors. And then he's also made himself available on Sunday for some one-on-one divination and healing sessions, so you can spend time with him directly that way. So everyone, thank you so much. So awesome to have some live viewers. And for all of those of you who are watching this after we post it, thanks for watching. And John, thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Bhima. It's lovely to have you. Thank you.
We'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, thank you.